Maybe it's a classic or maybe a flop. Has Katie seen it? She probably has not. She'll sit down and watch it if it's good or it's bad.
Hey, have you seen this?
No, Katie hasn't seen that.
Hi, I'm Katie, and if I had a nickel for every time someone said to me, wait, you haven't seen this movie? Oh my God, you need to see this movie, I'd be very rich. So this is my podcast where I finally watch those movies you all have told me I need to see, and I tell you what I think. All right, we are back with another episode of Katie Hasn't Seen That. Once again, be mindful. Spoilers are dead ahead. I'm watching these movies for the first time, and I'm telling you what I think about them, so it's kind of part of the process that there will be spoilers. I just don't want anyone to be mad at me, okay? There's spoilers. Top Gun. Tom Cruise, and I think Val Kilmer's in it, named Goose. I think. I know there are airplanes and a boat, I think. There might be a boat. I don't know if there's actually a boat. Top Gun, I have never seen. I have been told you need to see Top Gun. How have you not seen Top Gun? I have had people tell me they will not be my friend anymore since I have not seen Top Gun. So as you can tell, a lot is riding on this movie. People are shocked that I have never seen this movie. It is from 1986. Once again, I am not looking up like anything about this movie before I see it. I'm just telling you what I think I know about it. And my first thought is, this is a movie that's a lot older than I thought it was. 1986. I wasn't even alive when this movie was made. Here's the thing about Tom Cruise. You love him or you hate him. You have to admit he's a good actor. So I'm expecting good things, Tom Cruise. I better be enjoying your air travels because that's what I think you're doing in this. All I know is that I've eaten at a restaurant that a scene from Top Gun was filmed at. It was in San Diego. I ordered mac and cheese balls, and the entire time the group and I discussed how much I was enjoying my balls. So just lots of comments of, hey, how are those balls tasting? Apparently very mature conversations at my dinner tables. The more I'm thinking about this, I don't know anything about this movie. I think there's some volleyball. I feel like there's shirtless volleyball and like lots of 80s music. I know there's a lady with curly blonde hair in it. But I mean, mostly my connection to Top Gun is that I ate at a restaurant that a scene was filmed at. So, I mean, that's got to be some like 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon stuff, right? I've pretty much seen it because I've eaten at a restaurant that the movie filmed at. So I have really no idea what to expect. It's called Top Gun. Does that mean there's guns? My thought is that this is a military movie of some kind. I know there's high fives. I know there's volleyball. And I at least know there's a restaurant in it. Top Gun has a 6.9 out of 10 on Internet Movie Database, 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. And apparently we don't have Facebook reviews for this. We got a 50% on Metacritic. So y'all telling me, oh my gosh, you haven't seen Top Gun. It seems like half the world doesn't like Top Gun. My expectations are slightly lowered. So without further ado, I'm going to watch this movie and then I'm going to let you all know what I think. I'm going to go make some popcorn. Okay, that is in the books. I've officially seen Top Gun. First things first, bunch of 80s music. I was 100% correct about this. The movie essentially felt like an 80s music video. And just like an 80s music video, a lot of things happened, but also nothing happened, and it didn't really make any sense. And I'll just explain why throughout the rest of this. Also, I wanted to point out Restaurant Watch was in effect from the moment I started the movie. Why is everyone so sweaty? Everyone in this movie looked like someone just sprayed them with a water bottle that they just got misted. It was kind of gross, but maybe it was just hot. You know, maybe it was just hot for the actors. There's a lot of fans in this movie too, so I just think that maybe someone should have had a towel nearby to dab them occasionally. It could have been an intentional thing, like Tony Scott, who directed the movie, didn't know Tony Scott directed this, was like, yeah, make them look super wet the entire time. That was just something I could not stop thinking about. In addition to the sweating, there was also a lot of gum chewing. Was this something that was popular in the 80s among fighter pilots? I just think that they kind of missed out on getting a brand deal with some sort of gum company for this movie because there was a lot of gum chewing, and also not very appropriate gum etiquette. You're supposed to chew with your mouth closed. There was a lot of open mouth gum chewing. I will say, I love war movies. I grew up on war movies. This doesn't really feel like a war movie. This topic just does not interest me. It felt like the script was written like with one-liners. People don't talk like that. The jokes and like the comebacks and the basic conversations all felt like what a 12-year-old would have written or come up with. Like, yeah, say, with that insult, say back that he smells really bad. I will say, though, I did appreciate that they made Charlie kind of a powerful lady in the movie, but there's just so many things that kind of felt like the wheels came off as we just moved through each and every scene. I guess I'll just let y'all know. I didn't really like Top Gun. Okay? The Air Force sequences, like, that's so cool. They got some actual fighter pilots and they did some really cool stuff in the air and they filmed it and they like attached cameras to the jets, and like that is super cool. However, the sequences were so long and so boring that sometimes my mind would wander and I'd be like, oh, I gotta watch this. So I'd kind of tune out during the sequences that there was a lot of, I guess you would call it action. It just didn't feel like action because nothing was happening. Also, we have an airbase close to where I live. The sound from the jets was actually quite annoying to me just because it was so loud and I have to live with that in my real life. And I just decided that I didn't enjoy that sound. I will say, kudos to me. I was right about the shirtless volleyball and the high fives and the 80s music. There was a boat, I would also like to point out as well. I got a couple things correct about this, but let's talk characters. The only character that was likable, in my opinion, was Goose and his wife, who was played by Meg Ryan. I was like, oh damn, Meg Ryan's in this. America's sweetheart. And I felt like Goose and I don't remember the wife's name, which now I feel really bad about because I was like, she's a cool character. Those were the only two characters that I actually cared about. And of course, guess who dies? Goose. But first, we need to talk about how Goose dies, okay? We need to talk about this. I had some problems with this movie because of the way it was shot. If you haven't seen the movie in a while, the jet starts spinning out of control and they need to eject. They eject, but I feel like in the sequence, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. And I feel really bad about this. I was laughing while this was happening in the movie because it was almost comical. Like it almost felt like a scene from Airplane or Naked Gun. The top of the jet comes off, like the glass part, and then their seats eject. But then there's like a quick cut and Goose, like, but you don't know it's Goose. You're like, who hit this? It's almost like the glass thing didn't fully detach, even though it had just detached in the prior scene. And then there's a shot of one of them hitting really hard inside of this glass enclosure that's the top of the jet. Then they parachute down? But I have a question. How was Goose able to parachute down if he was dead? So they land in the ocean, right? Maverick, Goose, together again. But Goose is fully dead. And like, I'm laughing because it just seemed like a joke sequence. And it also just seemed like such a throwaway thing to do to Goose, And I felt like the stakes were never high in this movie. Maybe it's supposed to emulate real life and that sometimes things happen that you can't control and it's not always going to be some over-the-top dramatic thing that happens. But this movie felt over-dramatic and that things happen for no reason. That's a weird turn of events that a movie based around the character Maverick, played by Tom Cruise, and Charlie, played by Kelly McGinnis, and also Iceman. I got that wrong. Goose was definitely not Val Kilmer in this. I had no feelings at all towards any of these characters. I didn't care what happened to any of them. Does that make me a monster? Or does that mean that the story didn't make me feel anything? I kind of have a lot of problems with this movie, and I don't understand why so many people love this. I really can't wrap my head around it. The character dynamics, there's no growth between the characters. Like, it's hard to care about them. Everything is so shallow. Charlie and Maverick's relationship, everything moves so fast, yet there was like no screen time development of their relationship, but then they're just like doing it and she's saying, I fell for you. And I'm like, you literally just went on a date and like laid on a patio together. it just felt like there was a lot of things you had a headcanon and you're like, oh, I think this must have happened so we could get here. And it felt like they just threw lines of script in just to be like, yeah, that kind of explains that thing so that we can do this other thing. It just felt like this movie was a celebration of like men and testosterone, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but everything just kind of felt disjointed. There was like not a clear storyline. The plane stuff is cool, but like it's like they sacrifice story for more plane time. Like on the cutting room floor, they were like, that important plot point, don't worry about that. Just more airplanes, please. More jets, more flying. There was a celebration though, because I found the restaurant in the movie that I ate at. I think it appeared twice, where Goose, rest in peace, and his wife and Charlie and Maverick are there and they're singing at the piano. I ate at a table in that room. I know, everybody calm down. Also, I think at the end when he's in a bar, Maverick's in a bar, that was also the same restaurant. When Charlie just appears with the jukebox song, you know, people have an interesting way of just showing up at the right times in this movie too. So this whole movie essentially is based around training to be a super awesome dogfighting jet pilot in the military. Cool. It just wasn't interesting. Like, I just don't understand why people like this. Like, I need someone to tell me why the movie crashed at Mach 2 for me. Like, it had potential, but it just never took off. Huh? I felt like the acting was really bad. I felt like the script just didn't really make sense, and you just kind of had to do a lot of your own fill in the blanks. Tom Cruise, you let me down, okay? But I mean, it's some sort of huge cult classic. I saw it. I can now say that I've seen it. Also, it's like they graduated and he was gonna leave, but then he didn't leave, and then he graduated, and then boom, he's in like a war zone. That what I will say, the war sequence, was it a war sequence? When they're on that aircraft carrier at the end and then they're fighting the MiGs, that was the most interesting part of the whole movie, and it's all but like 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, that was interesting. But I literally just couldn't care about any of them. And I feel like this movie could have been so much more than what it is. Just felt like a bro movie that I was watching from the sidelines, and I was like invited to the party, but I didn't quite belong at the party. And so I was like watching it and I just didn't quite fit in. So everything felt like I was watching a very poorly pieced together story about this guy who is a great pilot, but there was just no depth to it. So I can say I've seen it. I've seen Top Gun. Okay. It was hard for me to care about anything that happened in this movie. I'm sorry if you like Top Gun. Why are they making a sequel? There's no reason to make a sequel of this. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed that y'all made me watch this. Okay? Top Gun is definitely not going to be a movie I recommend to anybody. And I agree with 50% of the world that I did not like this movie. I'm going to give it 3 out of 10 RIP Gooses because I liked Goose. And that last fight sequence was kind of okay. I guess that's my thoughts on Top Gun. I hope you'll still be my friend. But I did see it. So do I get some brownie points for actually seeing the movie now? Thank you all for listening. God, I hope the next movie's better. If you want to hang out with me more, or if you just want to yell at me for my thoughts on a specific movie, I stream over on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/KatiePetersPlays. Also, feel free to follow and chat with me on Twitter at PlayKatiePlay and on Instagram at KatiePetersPlays. Music written and performed by Mark Can Do It. Katie Hasn't Seen That is a part of the Geek Generation Network. Until next time, keep your popcorn warm for me.